A young woman sits at her family's dinner table, heart pounding, as she announces her dream to start a business. Her father's face twists with disgust. Her mother stays silent. Her sister smirks. They call her a fool, a dropout, a disgrace. But what happens when that disgrace builds a $47 million empire and secretly saves their house, their pride, their future? Stick around for one of the most jaw-dropping revenge stories you'll ever hear. If you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or told your dreams were a waste of time, this story will hit you right in the feels. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into Ruby Lawson's incredible journey from family outcast to tech titan who flipped the script in the most satisfying way possible. Ruby Lawson grew up in Prescott, Oregon, a small town where college diplomas were worth more than gold, and dreams were only valid if they fit the family mold. Her father, Douglas, a political science lecturer, carried himself like he was always on a lecture stage, sharp suit, sharper tongue. Her mother, Linda, the high school principal, lived by discipline and tradition, her eyes always scanning for mistakes to correct. And then there was Ruby's sister, Natalie, golden child, Harvard Medical School prodigy, the family's pride and joy. At age 4, Natalie could recite the Declaration of Independence. At 18, she landed a full-ride scholarship. The whole town celebrated her like she was destined to save the world. Ruby? She was the odd one out. Her passion wasn't textbooks or theorems. It was what happened behind a computer screen. At 12, she fixed a neighbor's printer for $10 and 2 movie tickets. By 15, she coded a website for Miss Martin's flower shop, landing its first online order in days. Ruby felt alive, her fingers dancing across the keyboard, her mind buzzing with ideas. But her parents? They saw her tinkering as a distraction, a childish hobby. "Focus on the SAT, Ruby," her mother snapped, her lips tight with disappointment. Her father was worse. "Keep this up and you'll be a tech support girl forever," he said, his voice cold as the Oregon rain. "Don't expect a dime from us." Every family dinner was a shrine to Natalie's perfection. Natalie's presenting at the Boston Symposium. Her father would beam. "Professor Landon says she's a natural leader." Ruby, meanwhile, got questions like, "Are you retaking the math SAT again?" Her dreams were dismissed, her talents invisible. She forced smiles, her throat tight, her fork trembling in her hand. She wasn't allowed to be different. She wasn't allowed to be herself. By her senior year, Ruby had had enough. At the dinner table, surrounded by college packets for Stanford, Princeton, Yale, she took a deep breath, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I'm not applying to college," she said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "I'm starting my own business. I have a plan, a client, and $4,000 saved from building websites." The room went silent. A fork clattered. Her mother's face froze. Her father stood, his voice slicing the air. "That's not happening. Not under this roof." His eyes burned with disgust, as if she'd just spat on the family name. Ruby didn't cry. She stood, walked to her room, and packed 3 suitcases. A week later, she left Prescott with an old laptop for $1,000 and a fire in her chest. No one said goodbye. No one wished her luck. They were certain she'd fail. Portland's suburbs became Ruby's new world. Her first apartment was a 450-square-foot box with creaky floors and drafty windows. The kitchen was so narrow she could touch both walls. She set up a second-hand table under the only outlet, her makeshift office. Each morning, she brewed coffee in a chipped drip machine, the bitter scent mixing with the damp air. She worked from sunrise to midnight, streetlights flickering outside as she coded. Her idea was simple: rustic art, a platform to help local artisans, pottery makers, candle crafters, wood carvers sell online. Oregon was full of talent, but most artisans didn't know how to navigate the digital world. Ruby built their websites, took a 5% commission, and gave them the rest. It wasn't flashy, but it was hers. The early days were brutal. Her bank account dwindled faster than she'd planned. She lived on cup noodles and boiled eggs, the heater cranked to drown out the cold, and the fear. Cold emails to craft stores went unanswered. One replied with a laughing emoji. Good luck with that. When she called her mother, desperate for a familiar voice, Linda's response was ice. If you're not in school, don't expect anyone to be waiting for you. Ruby sat on her apartment floor, the silence heavier than ever, her chest tight with something she couldn't name. 3 months in, Rustic Heart had 2 clients, Josie, a soap maker, and Walter, an elderly woodcarver who called her Lucy but paid $20 a month. It was enough to cover one electric bill. Then disaster struck. Dropping off a shipment for Josie, Ruby's old Civic was rear-ended. No one was hurt, but the car wouldn't start. The repair bill? $800 she didn't have. That night, surrounded by unpaid invoices and rolls of packing tape, Ruby stared at the ceiling, her pulse racing. What if they're right? She whispered to herself. What if I've made the wrong choice? Desperate for a spark, Ruby attended a small business meetup at the downtown library. Her leg ached from the crash, but she pushed through, clutching a homemade business card. That's where she met Marcia Bennett, a silver-haired woman in her 50s with piercing eyes and a no-nonsense vibe. Marcia ran Ledgerflow, a small business accounting software company. Ruby, nervous but determined, handed her the card. I'm Ruby. I run a platform helping artisans sell online. No degree, no funding, but I have clients and revenue. Marcia's eyes scanned her spreadsheets, her face unreadable. Then she smiled. You don't need more individual sellers. You need B2B clients. Sell your software to 50 craft stores, not one soap bar at a time. Ruby's mind lit up. They talked until 10 p.m., the library lights dimming. For the first time, someone saw her. Ruby renamed her company Craft Logic Solutions, shedding the naive, Rustic Heart name. Under Marcia's mentorship, she pivoted to supply chain management software for small artisan businesses, a niche no one had touched. She rewrote her code, averaging 3 hours of sleep a night. She sent emails to retail stores across the West Coast, her fingers trembling with every send. Most ignored her. But then, an email from Maple and Sage, a furniture chain with 36 locations, changed everything. Can your software track inventory per location? Send a demo. Ruby and her intern Jared, a UX design student, built a demo in 5 sleepless days. It was clean, intuitive, perfect. When Rebecca Tran, the operations head, called, she didn't hesitate. We need this in 60 days. Can you deliver? Ruby glanced at Jared's thumbs up. Yes, she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline. She flew to Denver. Borrowed blazer slightly too big, shoes scuffed but polished. In Maple and Sage's sleek office, she answered every technical question, her voice carrying the weight of countless nights coding alone. The contract? $420,000, with $150,000 upfront. In the taxi back to her hotel, Ruby clutched her backpack, staring out the window, her heart pounding with triumph. She wasn't a dropout anymore. She was a CEO. Craft Logic grew fast. Maple and Sage referred her to 3 more chains, including Craft, a California-based craft materials giant. They signed for $630,000. Ruby incorporated in Oregon, rented an office in Beaverton, and hired 5 employees. By year 3, revenue hit $1.2 million, with $300,000 in profit. By year 4, she spoke at the Womenintech conference, her voice steady as she shared how simple software could transform industries. Acquisition offers rolled in, the highest valuing Craft Logic at $36 million. She declined them all. This wasn't just a company. It was her proof, her defiance, her truth. But Ruby kept her success quiet, especially from her family. She drove a beat-up Subaru, lived in a modest apartment, and never bragged. Her mother called monthly, not to ask about Ruby, but to boast about Natalie's latest hospital promotion or her husband's biochemistry paper. Ruby smiled, stayed silent, and kept paying their bills. When her father was laid off at 61, his department cut, Ruby saw their overdue mortgage statement, $1, $800 in unpaid prescriptions, 2. Natalie, swamped at the hospital, offered nothing. So Ruby acted. Through her attorney, she set up Spring Hill Holding, a nonprofit trust that paid their mortgage. She created Brightstone Consulting, hiring her father for a fake $2,000 a month curriculum job. For Natalie's twins, she funded $9,500 a year daycare scholarships. Over 3 years, she spent $120,000, all anonymous. Her family never suspected. Thanksgiving in Salem was the breaking point. Ruby arrived with a bottle of wine, a 40-page folder, and a USB drive of her Seattle Tech Conference presentation. Dinner was the usual. Natalie praised, Ruby ignored. Her mother toasted family unity. Her father lauded Natalie's brilliance. Ruby's name? Not mentioned. She'd had enough. She placed her documents on the table, her hands steady. I'd like to share something. She revealed the TechBridge weekly article. Ruby Lawson, CEO of Craft Logic Solutions, valued at $47 million. She showed the bank transfers, the trust, the fake contract, the scholarships. I've been supporting this family for 4 years. The room froze. Her father stood, face red. You're making this up. A dropout millionaire? You're a fraud, Natalie scoffed. You write code at home and think you're a CEO? Laughable. Her mother whispered, Why didn't you tell us? Ruby's voice was calm but sharp. Because you looked at me like I didn't belong. I'm tired of hiding just to be tolerated. Her father slammed the table. You're a disgrace. Ruby stood, gathered her papers, and looked at her mother. People who see me as a disgrace can't live off my money. She walked out into the rain, her shoulders light, her heart free. Ruby cut all support. Spring Hill stopped mortgage payments. Brightstone ended her father's contract. The scholarships vanished. Her family's pride crumbled as their safety net disappeared. Ruby didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She'd built a life they couldn't touch, a $47 million empire born from her own hands. The rain washed away their judgment, and for the first time, Ruby felt whole. Ruby's story isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming your worth. She didn't need her family's approval to shine. Sometimes, the sweetest justice is living authentically, proving the doubters wrong not with words, but with action. What would you do to live your truth? If Ruby's story gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? Subscribe for more stories of triumph and payback, and let's keep the conversation going. See you in the next one.